Hello everyone, it's your boy Hardemus back again with another Gypsy tutorial video. The most common question I've been asked since my last video is how can I play a more PvP centric support vitality Gypsy? So that's what we're going to cover here today. I'm going to assume that you've already watched my original guide, so please go back there for the basics of the Gypsy class. And with that, let's dive into the build. First, a quick warning. Okay, the Vitality Gypsy build is not for everyone. I've seen a lot of really successful Gypsies playing more of a hybrid build. However, I think at the highest levels of gameplay, the support Gypsy provides the most utility that the class can offer. That's assuming that you have the right pieces on your KVM or PvP team built around you to support this build that does virtually no damage and only provides tankiness and crowd control. And lastly, even though Wink was recently nerfed for the Gypsy class, I promise you that this class is still very playable at a high level of gameplay. More specifically, because although Wink was nerfed, one of our other key skills in this build is buffed, and we'll talk more about that as we go through the video. So let's talk about cards and enchants for each of these equipment slots, starting with the Gold Whip. As you know, I'm a huge proponent for the Gold Whip. Whether you're free to play or pay to play, this item is essential because of the reset cooldown ability. That becomes even more important in the Vitality build because haste is harder to come by, as you're not building agility but vitality instead. So on this whip, your cards should be haste focused. That could be the plus 120 haste card that I have here, or preferably for most, a Sidewinder plus 3% final haste card. As for enchants, this build is exclusively focused on crowd control, and your enchant should reflect that on the weapon. The two enchants that are most sought after here are the PvP debuff penetration and PvP debuff enhancement. The balance between those two enchants should really be built on who you're playing. If your stuns aren't hitting at all, if your charge arrow, your immobilize, your freeze traps are not hitting, that means you need more debuff penetration. If your stuns and crowd control are hitting but not for a long time, that means you need more debuff enhancement. Ultimately, your mix here should depend on who your opponents are and how effective your crowd control is against them. Alright, moving on to armor. Armor is actually quite straightforward in this build. You just need to be as tanky as possible. So your armor should be Geffen, final physical PvP damage reduction, or Payon demi-human damage reduction. As for cards, I would suggest cards that amplify tankiness and reduce crowd control on yourself. So for the armor slot, we go with a minus 30% mark card. On the cloak slot, we're going to use an orc zombie for 10% demi-human damage reduction. And on the shoe card, I am also a heavy proponent for building that HEADGEAR card, because you can't control other people if you yourself are being controlled. And for your accessories and talisman, as you can see here, every single piece of equipment here should be focused on boosting your tankiness and vitality. So whether it's blue, gold, or purple, each of these needs to be building vitality stat. That could be a blue book for the talisman slot if you can't afford the purple core of Strauth. That could be blue, gold, or purple for your accessory slots as well. When we talk about cards in these slots, it's all about anti-crowd control again. So you should be rocking OBNs or Wormtails as you go into PvP, depending on which you face the most often. And nowadays, you can actually change the card right before the match if you see the opponent's comp. So that's a super helpful feature. As we talk about enchants on these, you really have three options in my opinion. You have vitality boosting enchants from Prontera or Geffen, demi-human damage reduction enchants from Payon, or final anti-crit enchants from Morok. And whether you use one of those three really should again depend on which comp you're facing. As you can see here, I have mostly vitality enchants with just a splash of a gold medium damage reduction here and there. In regards to headgear cards and slots, there's really 3 things that we want to be focused on. First, does it increase my tankiness? Second, can it help with my haste issues? And third, if possible, are there any cards that can help me resist crowd control? So, when it comes to increasing tankiness for a headgear card, I am a big advocate for the Nightmare cards, the HP 5 regen. If possible, to stack 3 or 4 of these in headgear, you will find it extremely beneficial. In the Vitality Gypsy build, you're talking about potentially 3 to 10 million HP at this point in the game. And getting 1.5 million HP back every 5 seconds can be a total game changer that keeps you alive for the entire KVM match. Secondly, as we talk about reduce our haste issues, you can reduce that VCD cooldown with a couple of Axe Goblin Elite Headgear cards. And finally, if you can afford it, a gold standard card here would be the Orc Hero to increase the stun resistance on your character by 100% and increase the healing from your Lyrid's Do skill by 15% as well. In lieu of an Orc Hero card, I would just focus on another Axe Goblin if you need it for haste, or an additional Nightmare card at this stage in the game. Alright, let's go check out the skills. Skills for this build are going to be very different than skills for your DPS PvE build, because essentially you're not doing any DPS. So every single skill you cast here should be focused exclusively on crowd control or healing. As you can see, the number 1 most important skill, the first skill on the skill bar here, is going to be our Wink skill. Even with the fixed cooldown at 9 seconds, this is still a highly effective skill that you should cast whenever it's available with your whip cooldown reset. The second most important skill I spam right at the beginning of a match is going to be your Charge Arrow Immobilize skill. I will follow that up with Remember Me, the debuff for haste reduction, and then immediately close to launch 2 very underrated skills, the Freeze and Ankle Snare traps. Essentially, your job is to trap the opponent DPS or crowd control that you're assigned to. And once you get them in those traps, you should not be letting them out. You're going to be casting Wink, Charge Arrow, Traps, Scream repeatedly to not let that player play the game. And if you're lucky, you can pull in another player as well, or a group of players as the opportunity allows it. So, let's look at some gameplay. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this video helps you wink all of your opponents straight to the grave. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next video, this is Hardemus signing off. Peace.